And good afternoon. Welcome to the We Believe Digital Studios in downtown Jackson, Mississippi for our twice a week news break show, Wednesdays and Fridays at noon. We're so happy to have you on board. Chris Young with you today. Got a whole bunch of, a packed 30-minute show for you. Hopefully some stories that you haven't come across before, or maybe a slightly different perspective on some that you may have heard of. And we'll start out on the global front. Sniffer dogs had alerted officers in the country of Uruguay to 6 surfboards containing a total of 110 pounds of cocaine. So, there's no end, supply and demand, right? When you got the demand, you got to have the supply, and they find ways to get these drugs across the borders, through borders, and so forth. And in this case, coming from South America, heading to Europe. So, they held 5 of the 6 surfboards back and let the other one proceed ahead so they could find out who was receiving it. But the outcome those folks are going to have. So, there's no limit to the creativeness, how we're going to smuggle drugs. It's just amazing. We've seen drugs in children's toys, even inside of fruits and stuff, carving out. Just amazing. And then, of course, there's the human, using human beings. Very dangerous. So the next story is a vessel carrying about 250 passengers. We got 2 stories about capsized boats. 250 passengers traveling to Patigi in the north central Kwara state after attending a wedding party in a neighboring Niger, in the southern part of Africa, when it sank early morning. They had 250 people on board. 106 didn't survive. Nobody wearing life jackets, and so 250, and almost half of 45% of them didn't survive the capsizing boat. And also off the coast of Greece. At least 78 people died after a migrant boat carrying hundreds of people sank off the Greek coast. Now, this wasn't a wedding party like it was in Niger. This was migrants trying to escape their countries, which were not specified, but to get to a better way of life, in Europe, and sank off the Greek coast early this morning. According to that country's Coast Guard, and as reported by the BBC. They say they had as many as 750 passengers on this boat that capsized. At least 78 dead. So sad news. And again, no one aboard the fishing boat was wearing a life jacket, according to the Coast Guard. There's a young lady, a young Kenyan lady, and I'm going to do my best with her last name. Her first name, Faith Kipyegon. I'll say Kipyegon, Kipyegon, a 29-year-old Kenyan, Faith Kipyegon, being hailed as superhuman after beating the world record for the women's 5,000 meter at the Diamond League meeting in Paris on Friday, winning in 14 minutes and 5.2 seconds. It comes a week after this woman, Faith Kipyegon, who's the mother of one, broke the world record in the 1,500 meter in the Florence Diamond League, 3 minutes, 49 seconds. She's a two-time Olympic champion, and she attended a reception on Tuesday in her honor at the State House in Nairobi, and where she was told she had also been given a house worth looks like 6 million Kenyan shillings. Not sure about how that equates to dollars, as part of her prize. And she said, "Thank you so much, Mr. President. I'm so happy with the reward. Now I can own a house in Nairobi, and with the money, I can now buy my father a car." Isn't that amazing? A two-time Olympic champion, and breaking these records, breaking two different records over the course of 1 week. And her delight is that she can have a home and buy her father a car. Great stuff. Way to go, young lady. 29. Faith Kipyegon, superhuman. So the next thing up on the list, we shift down a bit towards this Trump. Trump. You know, it just never ends, does it? Trump arrested, arraigned, and released yesterday in Miami federal court. You just can't even turn on a television. It's everywhere. But they were asking some people about, well, what do you think got to him the most? Because, they called him the Teflon Don, because he seemed to wiggle out of all kinds of accountability and stuff over the years. In 2021, USA Today did a story that said that in his lifetime, as of 2021, he had been involved as a plaintiff or a defendant in over 4,000 lawsuits. But longtime journalist Maggie Haberman, I think she works for the New York Times or the Washington Post, but is a senior commentator on CNN. She said that what she felt he was most rattled with was the photos that they showed of all the, just being haphazardly cobbled together in these banker boxes, among the nation's highest secrets, military secrets, national defense secrets, planning documents, not to be exposed to people that don't have a need to know. And then, he resisted the efforts to return when the archives people asked him to return the documents. He really resisted those efforts. 37 counts of several under the Espionage Act, and so we'll see how all that goes, see how that plays out, see if the Teflon Don can do it again. It seemed like there's some evidence of some staunch Republicans kind of starting to back away from him at this point. It's amazing what it takes. And in another story related to him, a federal judge on Tuesday, that's on yesterday, granted a motion by E. Jean Carroll to file an amended defamation suit against Trump, seeking at least $10 million, based in part on recent comments that Trump had made on CNN. Carroll made the motion for an amended complaint after Trump called her a whack job at a CNN town hall in May, the day after she'd already won a $5 million judgment against him in a different civil case where it was alleged that he sexually abused for sexual abuse and defamation. So, the day after, you just get tagged with that, and then you're calling the person that brought the suit a whack job, among other things. Maybe he's got, what he's got coming to him. Anthony Blinken, that's our Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, heading to China for high-level talks with his counterpart in an effort to ease tensions between the United States and China. We've been telling you about that. This started with this whole spy balloon. Remember the spy balloon over Montana kind of thing? And then easing out of the area, but doing so over the United States East Coast, where there's many sensitive military institutions, and then we've reported to you about the saber rattling kind of behavior on the high seas, cutting in front of warships, traveling in international waters in a dangerous manner. We've told you about stuff going on in international airspace. We just heard last week from multiple sources about a Chinese spying operation embedded in Cuba, just 93 or 4 miles off the coast of Florida. So hopefully Mr. Blinken meets with success. And, a lot of people have said that it seemed like the aim of China is to be the one world power. So we'll have to see, but it seems like the stakes are getting higher and higher. The tension's getting higher and higher. So hopefully this visit, this diplomacy, can avert something much, much worse happening. Last night, Vegas Golden Knights captured their first Stanley Cup in a 9-3 win over the Florida Panthers. Game 5 of a best-of-7 series. Being raised in the Northeast, I always voting for those, always rooting for those Boston teams and all. And Florida Panthers totally blanked out. I mean, they swept my Boston Bruins and made it through 2 other teams before running into the Vegas Golden Knights. So Vegas Golden Knights, 6 years in the league, and when the owner of the league made the bold decision to start a hockey franchise in Las Vegas, he said that it was his goal to get a Stanley Cup in 6 years. That's exactly what happened. 6 years. And the night before, we all watched the Denver Nuggets won their first NBA championship. Now that's a 40-year, been around for 40 years, won their very first NBA championship on Monday night, beating the Miami Heat by 5 points. I tell you, I was down at 1 block east, and everybody was staring at that TV. And they beat out Dwayne Wade's old team, the Heat. Remember, they used to have LeBron down there. And now Jimmy Butler and Bam, they beat him by 5 points in Game 5, best-of-7 series. So congratulations to the Denver Nuggets. Also on national news, government officials from the state of Rhode Island, a guy by the name of David Patton and James Thorson, allegedly displayed bizarre, offensive, and unprofessional behavior during a March trip to Pentagon. A racism complaint has been filed against these two. And the governor of Rhode Island saying, if this is true, this is really, really shocking to hear, and that they will be dealt with if they discover this is true. Little Rhode Island, traveling to Philadelphia, some type of state business trip, and letting their true colors be shown. I think that's it on the national front, and we're just coming down to the end of the first segment. So just before we cut out to the break, just remind you that today is another day in the state of Mississippi where Republican legislators, Republican leaders refuse to hold any type of hearings on the TANF scandal that stole tens and tens of millions of dollars from earmarked for the poorest people and poorest families in the state of Mississippi. But they put themselves above all that, and they turn that money into a slush fund for their little pet projects. To hell with the poor people is what they're really saying when they do that. And it's the saddest thing you can think of. But, that's what they've done. Some of the behavior is just it's just sad and sad and sad. You know, and I was listening over the course of the weekend, everybody and their brother, you know, making mention of the 60th commemoration of the assassination of Medgar Evers in his driveway in Jackson, Mississippi. But did you happen to hear any of the state leaders make any mention of that? Did you happen to hear when they designate the Medgar and Myrlie Evers home a national monument? Did you happen to hear our governor, lieutenant governor, speaker of the House, any of those whips, any of those people, were they talking about that? If so, I missed it. So it's easy to see why Mississippi is on the bottom. It's just so easy to see. So we'll stop there and step out for a little bit, a couple of commercials, and then we'll be right back with you.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-3 8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippi.com and click on Home Delivery.
And welcome back to We Believe Digital Studios and our twice-a-week news break show down into the Mississippi issues now. Just last night, the Indianola Board of Aldermen voted to suspend African-American Sergeant Greg Capers without pay, effective immediately. It was a 4-1 vote during a board meeting Monday night. Remember, it wasn't too long ago when this little boy, 11 years old, Adarian Murray, Adarian Murray, called for help. Says something was going on domestic in the home, and called for help. And the little boy got shot in the chest by this what appears to be certainly a grown-up, middle-aged adult. And so the Indianola Board of Aldermen say that's not okay to do that, and they have suspended him without pay, effective immediately. Just a horribly, horribly sad story. See, Mr. Lewis is in the house. Always glad to see him. Oh, he say he got a couple of pet projects, so yeah, and we all do, don't we? We all got a few. There was a comment made this morning by Angela Ladner. She's the executive director of the Mississippi Psychiatric Association, and she said patients, advocates worry more people will end up in jail or without treatment following the decision by St. Dominic to curtail their behavioral health services. Major hospital in the state, this is going to hurt us, and it's going to impact other systems because people will not be able to get the help that they need to get. She said there will be a, quote, there'll be a huge impact to the systems, especially the elderly and those that find themselves in a crisis situation. So, I don't know how the Benjamins work on all that, but to cut out that program, you wonder what is going to come next. Behavioral health is so critical. Here we are coming out of this COVID. We know we've learned so much about our society, the impacts of anxiety. We know stuff about going on with the youth, and people need help. and we try to remove the barriers, remove the stigmas, and encourage people to get the help they need. But then the providers of the help end up curtailing services. So a very sad commentary. And, we've seen so many health services curtailed here in Mississippi. Mississippi that's 49th in health care, 50th in health care quality overall. And so here you go. So we earn these rankings. A little story about, and I'm going to be following up, absolutely following up in the Mississippi Link newspaper on this. But, our state auditor, Shadrack White, he's a young man. He must have great ambitions. And, he's the one that issued this report not too long ago about fatherlessness in Mississippi. And, it was an amazing, blatant dog whistle. And he talking about ROTC ought to fix the problems of poverty and crime and so forth. I don't have the exact words in front of me, but it just a real dog whistle, in my opinion. And now he's taking aim at with a new report on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives that go on. Now, ask yourself, why do these initiatives go on to start with? They go on because the playing field is not level. So when you have diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's about bringing people together. It's about everybody having full citizenship, being welcome, being part of, supported, encouraged, et cetera, et cetera. And, he found out that there was some pet a puppy event, probably taking that out of context, artist lectures, and support for student veterans are all efforts that he said that the state of Mississippi is paying money for, to these state universities for these different activities and events. Seems to lose track. I haven't read the full report. Can't wait to read the full report. But I skimmed through it, and counting X number of millions of dollars that are being spent on these diversity, and this is a red meat issue. Other red states are doing this. Once again, it's typically focused on non-white people. So therefore the red states were taking aim at that. They're tired of losing their country, so they do everything they can do to prevent the advancement of other people. And sad story. So definitely be following up on that, but wanted to let you know about that. Also, our lieutenant governor raised almost $1 million in 1 month. Far more than Brandon Presley, who's running for governor, and also far more than Tate Reeves, who's running for governor. So Hosemann really cashing in this in the month of May. Also looked at his expense report from yesterday. Now, why a Democratic lieutenant governor from Mississippi, at least claimed to be Democratic, why he would need to go to an event at Mar-a-Lago is beyond me. I'm saying Democrat. I'm sorry, Hosemann is a Republican, but everybody claim he's a Democrat because a lot of times he seems like, the smartest person in the room and exhibits some fairness. It seems like a lot of times. But anyway, he shelled out nearly $7,000 to go to an event at Mar-a-Lago. So I guess that came out of his campaign. I don't know. Did it come out of the state coffers? And I know one guy that made money off that. So have to keep track of all that stuff. Jill Colleen Jefferson. We reported Monday night on the Sizzling in Mississippi show that the black female attorney, and she was released from jail on Monday. Didn't know this till after the fact. She had been arrested on Saturday for filming a traffic stop in Lexington, Mississippi. How many months ago was it when they fired the that sheriff or the police chief or whatever up there using the N-word and talking about how he shot one of these people 100 times or something like that. Just horrible thinking, behavior, repeating it on tape and all. And they dismissed him immediately. They fired him. But anyway, she saw a traffic stop going on and stopped, was not in the middle of it, was off to the side, filming, taking notes, and they put her in jail. They asked her to get out of the car. She refused. They took her out of the car, put her in handcuffs, brought her to jail. She refused to pay a $35 fee on the charges of failure to comply, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest, but ultimately the fee was waived. But the other part of that story is that it was just last year she filed, this black female attorney, civil rights attorney, associated with the Julian Project in Washington, D.C., Julian Bond, had filed a federal lawsuit against this Lexington Police Department, alleging intimidation, harassment, and false arrests. And then she gets arrested for doing something that's not against the law. It's only against the law if you're interfering with the execution of the police doing their duties. So she said, this is Lexington Police Department. This is cruel and unusual punishment, and it needs to stop. And I hope that by making a stand on this, by refusing to bail out, I hope other people do the same. So some words there from civil rights attorney Jill Colleen Jefferson. Got about 5 minutes to go. Just got a few stories for you on the Jackson front. I did happen to come across this article this morning on a web site I'd never heard of before, definition.org. And they did a ranking of the 50 most miserable cities in America. Pause. We're on the list. So on the 50 most miserable cities in America, Jackson ranks 6th from the bottom, 6th from the worst. So not 50th or 49th from the worst, but 6th from the worst. Got this big Juneteenth weekend coming up. Got Father's Day coming up this week. Got a lot going on. If you're not aware of the website, www.juneteenthjxn.com, juneteenthjxn.com. Go to that website. They have oodles and oodles of information about things going on for the Juneteenth weekend. Also, I don't know if I have all the information, but just before coming on today, I saw on Eventbrite, the Eventbrite website, where you buy the concert tickets. Well, on Sunday at 6 p.m., up on the big New Horizon Church up on the hill, Juneteenth Father's Day concert, which last year was free. Had the choir from Anderson Church, a beautiful, beautiful choir. Had a comedian, had a couple of speakers, had some great music, and there was no fees, accepting donations, but no fees. All it took was 1 year, and now $35 to $85 to see Pastor Mike Jr., James Fortune, and Zacardi Cortez. The theme on this Juneteenth and Father's Day concert is to honor sanitation and public service workers. Honoring sanitation and public service workers. So, yeah. It looked like it went from free to absolutely not free in 1 year. Maybe there's more to that I need to learn about, but at first blush, it bothered me. So just sharing that with you. If you haven't been to Murley's Garden, you know, this is just right at the end of Margaret Alexander Street in Jackson off Medgar Evers, where the Medgar and Murley Evers home is, now a national monument run by the United States Park Service. But at the end of the street, kind of just before you take the left onto Margaret Alexander to go to the home, is Murley's Garden. It's I'm not good at estimating the number of acreage, but I don't know. It seemed like maybe it's an acre, maybe more, but it's an open space and it's open to the public. Open from sunrise to sunset. They've got benches installed. They've got plantings. It's a nice park. Nice park for people to rest and reflect. Perhaps after visiting the Medgar and Murley Evers home, National Monument. It's a place where free speech is expected to be exercised. So just want to make you aware of that. It's new, so it's not, you know, it's in new condition, you know, so you don't have these big flourishing trees. You got little trees just been planted. You got some you know, shrubbery and garden stuff planted in these different planters and stuff. It's in its infancy, but it's for us. And it's in conjunction with that and being taken care of by the U.S. Park Service, Murley's Garden. Maybe just go over there, you know, when you need a minute or you want to make yourself a minute, maybe just go over there, take a break, and go over there and sit and reflect a little bit. Got some murders going on in Jackson. 2 different men murdered, found this morning. The first over on Sunset Drive around 6:30 this morning. 41-year-old, blunt force trauma. And then the next body found on Clark Street around an hour later. A 30-year-old man died of a gunshot wound. Also, shooting off Industrial Drive on June 11th. So 3 days ago, a pregnant 21-year-old, Iaria Anderson, 8 months pregnant, shot in the head and the leg in a car after leaving Soup's, a restaurant bar on Country Club Drive. The incident had been ruled a homicide. They rushed the body to the hospital, tried to do a C-section. The baby did not survive. Sadness. As of June 9th, so this doesn't reflect, though these numbers don't reflect those incidents that I just told you about, but as of June 9th, the homicides are down about 25% from last year. So on June 9th of last year, there had been 61 homicides in Jackson. June 9th of this year, 42 homicides in Jackson. So you know those numbers are constantly changing, but it looks like there's somewhat of a positive change going on there. So, you know, we share the bad news with you. We got to share the perceived good news with you also. So we've certainly run out of time for today. Thank the producer for letting me go over a little bit. Thank you guys for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you back here Friday at 12 noon. Take good care of yourselves and the people around you, and we'll see you Friday.